Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to do a board game spotlight review for The Spill by Andy Kim with art by Kwanchai Moria. This game is produced by Smirk Dagger Games. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of how to play, not a full rules teach, but an overview, and then a review, some quick thoughts on what I think about this game after a few plays. So here you can see the setup of the spill. It does take up a fair bit of room, and I'll try to explain what all the components are, and then a quick overview of the basic idea of the game with some final review thoughts at the end. So here are some of the components. You can obviously see the main board. We've got these little tokens that represent the animals that are at risk in this ocean surrounding this rig that is leaking oil, that we're trying to save the animals, stop the oil spill, and basically rescue the ocean. And you've got these little boats that represent each player. You play with 4 scientists no matter what. So if you're playing solo, you will operate 4 scientists, and the scientist cards are here. If you've played Pandemic, it's a bit like all the different roles in Pandemic. Each one has an own special power that they can have, and each one has a matching colored boat. And so right now we've got one boat in this sector, so you can see these lines here mark out this sector with a 1 through 6. Here's another sector with a 1 through 6 and another. So there's 4 sectors. At the beginning of the game, each person puts their boat in one of the sectors, rolls a die, and then puts the boat in that matching. So this person rolled a 3, this person rolled a 5, this person rolled a 2, and this person rolled a 5. And so their boats are out to start the game. So you start with all the all the animals healthy. You can see on the other side that they have oil. And so on the healthy side is where you start. All the animals haven't been contaminated yet. And you start with your boats in position. You also have to decide what level you're going to play and what your win conditions are going to be. So the win conditions, it's interesting in this game, there's a variable set of win conditions. And so there's 1, 2, 3 that are simplest level with 1 dot in the corner. There's 1, 2, 3 with 2 dots for a little bit harder. And then so far we've only tried these hardest ones. So, and we've not won yet. So we maybe need to go back to middle level or easy level. But any win conditions card tells you the 3 things you have to accomplish. So save 2 contaminated marine animals, remove a total of 10 oil dice from the game, save 3 full sets of marine life. And then if you accomplish that at any point in the game, you win. That's your win condition. So that's an easy win according to the cards and how they're balanced. The other thing you do to set the difficulty is where do you put this oil spill. So this first row here is the standard level, then the challenge level, and the ultimate. And we've always played the challenge level in the middle. And what this does is tell you how many dice you're going to be putting into the oil rig each time, which is the way that the oil spreads. And so this one just goes 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So that's the simplest, and then it's 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, and then 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6. So you can see how it ramps up the difficulty. The oil's coming out faster and faster the harder you go. So you could do an easy win condition card and an ultimate spill outs race here, or you could do easy and standard, or any combination to really find the level that you're looking for. We went with difficult on the card and challenge on this one, and we've lost twice. But both times we were within 1 turn of winning. So, and we've lost 2 ways. Now, the way you lose the game is that if you have 6 animals in the sick bay, and so over here in this corner and over here in this corner, you can see a place where you put the animals. If at the end of a player's turn, you have a contaminated animal with the oil still there that hasn't been cleaned up, that animal goes to sick bay. And if you ever get one of all 6 types in your sick bay combined, you lose. If you ever get any 3 of one type, you lose. And then if you ever have spillouts, 6 spillouts, and a spillout is if your dice are moving out and you have a complete row of 3 dice filling up that row, that's a spillout. If you have 6 of them around the board that you haven't cleaned up, you lose. So there's 3 different ways to lose, and then you're going to have this combination of win conditions. Besides the win conditions on the card, the only other way you can win is if you survive long enough and keep enough animals surviving so that the whole bag of dice gets emptied. That signifies you've capped the well, you haven't met any of the losing conditions yet, and so you can win that way as well. So you either meet the win conditions on the card, or you survive all of the dice being thrown out there. A couple other things about the game. You also have these resource cards, and at the beginning of the game, not only does each player take their own player board, they also will take 2 resource cards. And the resource cards give you benefits. And so they're going to look at 2 and pick 1, and then you can see here there's resource 3, 4, or 4, 3, 2, 1. The 1's kind of hidden there. But you're going to put these at at the base, and so you're going to have 4 possible resources to choose from, and they're all nice things. So move the spill out token back 1 space on the tracker. So this is the spill out token, so you can actually move it backwards with that. And then if you put these little cubes here are how you mark whether you are using that skill or not. So so when you're able to use this skill, and I'll explain just a minute how you do that, you put this on there, then you can use it at any time. But to use this skill, you have to get 2 cubes on there. And this one says move the token back 3 spaces on the tracker. So that's huge, but you have to get 2 tokens on there first. This one says medical kit, rescue a contaminated marine animal in a sector occupied by any ship. So it wouldn't have to be on your turn. If there's an animal that needs rescued where someone else's ship is on your turn, you could rescue that animal. And then if you have 2 cubes here, rescue a contaminated marine animal anywhere on the board. It doesn't even have to be a ship beside it. And so those are great. You have to pick one, and then you put it in. So all 4 players, if you're playing solo, you'll choose all 4 yourself. If you play with 2 players, you do each player controls 2 scientists. And if you play with 3, each player controls 1, and the 4th one is kind of a collaborative control. So you're going to take 2, choose 1, and you'll have 4 resources to start with. Once the resource has been used, the card can only be used on the top action or the bottom, not both. Once it's been used, you discard it from the game and put another one out. And how do you get those cubes? Well, you're going to be trying to rescue animals from the board before or after they've been contaminated, and you're going to put these rescued animals here. And you can see there's octopus, seahorse, dolphin, turtle, a ray, and then a pelican. And if you get one of every kind on here, whether they're contaminated or not, you get a little orange cube, and that's what you would put on the resource card. Also, if you actually remove the oil dice from the board entirely, you're going to fill these up, and if you can fill up a whole column here, then you're going to, again, get an orange cube, and you can put it on a resource card. So you're trying to rescue animals and remove the oil, and every time you do that, every set of 6 animals or a set of 3 dice that you remove, you are able to get one of those orange cubes to potentially activate those extra resources, those extra abilities. Now, how does a turn flow work? So on any player's turn, you've got 4 action points, and you can use the action points as they're indicated at the bottom of the card here. So let me grab one. This one has some tiles on it, so let me leave that there for a second. Let's look at this one. First off, the marine biologist. You can rescue animals that are on sectors adjacent to your current sector. So a sector is a skinny column here. So this green one, the blue one, I don't have a blue boat. Mine came with 2 purples for some reason, so I'm going to have to paint one. But if you have the blue boat out there, that's your operator, then you don't have to just be rescuing animals in the sector where your boat is, but you could go to either side. So it's a great benefit. But down below it explains how you can use your 4 action points. So for 1 action point, you can move your boat up to 2 sectors. So, and you can go clockwise or counterclockwise. And then for 1 action point, you can rescue a marine animal where your boat's at. So if it was this green player's turn, they could rescue this ray. For an action point, you can also push back an oil die. So if there's oil out in the region where your boat is, you can push it back, but it goes back in the bag, which is going to extend the game. So it might be something necessary, but it's not best. For 2 action points, you can rescue a contaminated marine animal. So if the animal's already contaminated, it's already been flipped over, then it takes 2 action points to rescue them and put them over here in the rescued marine life. It takes 3 action points to remove an oil dye. And so while you really want to be doing that, it's 3 of your 4 action points. It's pretty difficult, or costly, I guess, to do. The other thing that is on these player boards, beside the special ability and then also a summary of how you can use your action points, there's also these weather tokens. And so across the top of this meteorologist, his actual ability is you're not affected by these weather rolls. So if you roll any of these 4, it doesn't affect the meteorologist. When you roll these 2, you're actually going to gain an extra action point. And so that's their special feature. But there are some weather dice. There's 4 of them that go in the bag. And when these get rolled, depending on what the roll is, it tells you here what happens. If you roll this symbol, then resource cards can't be used that round. So these resources you've been putting cubes on to accumulate their powers, you can't use them for that round. And then if you roll this symbol, it's no specialist abilities may be used. So this person, the meteorologist, couldn't use that ability, so could the biologist. The third one, if you roll the ship, all movement is reduced by 1. So instead of using an action point to move 2 sectors, you can only move 1. And then if you roll this symbol, the turtle, marine animals cost +1 action point to rescue. So a clean animal costs 2 instead of 1, and a contaminated costs 3 instead of 2. And then if you roll the oil spill, you automatically drop 3 more dice. And then if you roll the bottom one here, you get +1 action point, which is terrific because now you could use a 5th action point. And anytime you roll the weather dice, you flip it over. So if you happen to roll this good bonus one, you flip that over. You don't have to use it immediately. You could save it for a later turn. And then at the end of your turn, you flip over any of these negative ones. But oh, actually, no, I think you have to flip all of them over. So yeah, you would have to use this on the turn you get it. But the others you are all negative, and when they flip over, it shows you, okay, this is the one that's active, and you don't. When you roll the weather dice, everybody flips over that tile. But at the end of your turn, you flip them all back over to the blue side. And so that's how the weather dice work. I just noticed that I actually assembled this tower incorrectly, so let me fix that real quick, and then we'll come right back to it. The reason I wanted to get that assembled correctly is because the next thing I want to talk to you about is how these dice work. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to take 8 die, 8 black die. If you choose a weather one, you just throw it back in the bag for the time being. And then you're going to dump them down through the tower. There we go. And then they go into the different sectors. So this one is a 6. So in this area, you put a 6 here. This one is a 2, so it goes here. And this one is a 5. So at least none of them were doubled up. But now I can see, hey, this is in danger here. It's 1 away from being contaminated. Then we got a 6 here and a 1 in this region. Over here, we've got a 6, which is right here. And you fill them from the inside out. And over here, we've got a 1 and a 2. So to start the game, I think I got them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So to start a game, you're going to have 8 to go out there. And then on the first player's turn, they're going to drop dice in. And that's based on where we're at over here on this track. So initially, they're going to be dropping 3 more in. And so that's the setup and then at the beginning of the turn. So on your turn, you do a spill. So if it were my turn, right now we're at 3. So I randomly pick 3 dice out of here. If you do the weather die, you just put it in. But instead of placing it on the board, you just do what the weather die says. So I drop 1 here, there, and there. So we got a 6. This goes here. So now that one's in danger. This is a 5, so that goes there. Now that one's in danger, and this one's a 2, so it goes here. And so now it's my turn, and if I'm the meteorologist with the orange boat, I'm trying to decide, okay, now how am I going to use my action points to best maximize my move? Now I can see some animals that are in some pretty bad danger, but I'm not, unfortunately, very close to any of them. And my ability as the meteorologist is just to avoid weather rolls, which we didn't roll any, so not super helpful in that regard. So I might think, okay, well, I could move and remove a die, and I could do that pretty easily, and that can be helpful. So I might just say, well, I'm going to use 1 action point to move 1. You can move up to 2, but to move 1, and then 3 action points to take this off, and I put it there. And as soon as I get a full column of these, we're going to gain a little cube, but that's just 1. And so I do the spill, and then I actually do my actions up to my 4 action points. And then at the end of my turn, we check and see, did we have any spill outs? If there's a spill out, you put this. And so if we had rolled, let's say we had rolled another 6, 2 things happen over here. If we've got 3 6s in a row, so we've got a spill out. So we have to mark that this column is a spill out. And if you ever have 6 spill outs, you automatically lose. And this dolphin now is contaminated, so it's going to cost more to rescue. Now, at the end of your turn, if you haven't been able to rescue any of these contaminated animals, that's when they go to the sick bay. And if you ever, let's say we rolled another 6. I'll pull out a weather die. Let's say we rolled another 6 in this section. It can't fit here, so it overflows clockwise this way. And so now it would go there and contaminate that ray. And so you can see how it can kind of start escalating, especially if you get dice going into one section over and over and over again. You can get consecutive spillouts. You can get a lot of animals that start getting contaminated. And again, if you have any 3 of one kind of animal contaminated at the end of your turn, you lose. If you have 6 spillouts at the end of your turn, you lose. If you have one of all 6 types of animals that are in the sick bay, you lose. And so, yeah, you've got to continue to manage those things, try to get the animals rescued, try to get the oil removed. Now, one thing you can do to earn some extra action points, over here on this it says extra action pool. You can choose to take 1 or 2 extra actions, but if you do, you're actually going to take dice out of here and put that on. So 1 action, you put 1 die there. The next person has to roll an extra die. If you put 2 extra actions, you got to put 2 dice out there, and then that person's going to have to roll those extra 2 die in addition to what the track is saying. So that's kind of the flow of the game, how you're going to run your turn, how you're going to use your actions, and you're trying to take the oil off the board, you're trying to rescue animals, and you're trying to either survive long enough that all the dice are gone so you've capped off the tower, or you have accomplished your win conditions that are on the card that you selected. So that's a quick overview of how you play. I'm sure there's a few rules that I haven't quite covered entirely, but hopefully it gives you a good idea of the flow. Now, what do I like about this game? Well, Pandemic was one of the games that really got me and my family into the board game hobby. It was one that we've played over and over and over again. My son and my wife and I played Pandemic Season 0 together, went through the whole thing. We've played the Iberia one. We've played several different versions. The real-time one, Rapid Response, all different kinds of versions of Pandemic. And we really love cooperative games. And this one does have that pandemic feel. There's this bad thing that's happening, this tragedy that we're trying to overcome, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and we have to collaborate and cooperate to try to overcome this tragedy. So there's that common feel. The players have roles that are specific and unique abilities, which is that common feel. But the other thing that I like about it that's different from Pandemic is the way the dice come down through this tower and the way they go into the sectors, and then how you never know exactly what numbers are going to get rolled and what sectors are going to fall into. And so there's that bit of unpredictability that I really enjoy, and just the way the tower works. There's also stickers for the tower. I haven't put the stickers on yet, but that'll make it look even cooler when I get a chance to do that. And just the way it visually shows the oil just seeping out and the animals coming into danger. Yeah, I think thematically the actions and the flow of the game actually make you feel like you're doing what the game says you're doing, trying to rescue these animals and trying to stop this oil spill. So I love the theme. I love the way the gameplay matches the theme. I love the memories of Pandemic that it brings. I love the fact that you have a variety of win conditions. So just in this base game, you got 9 different win conditions to choose from. Plus, you could just survive by, going through all these dice without any of the losing conditions. And I like these resource cards. How you can, pick. Well, let's choose these resource cards, and then okay, as we fill out a whole row of animals or a whole column of oil, which of these do we want to activate first? And sometimes those things are life-saving. Like you need to activate that this turn in order to use it. So I like all those little connections. I like the way you can scale it so much with the win condition cards, with the spill out things. And then in the rulebook, it even has an official easier version if you want to go easy beyond easy. And that one, instead of using the spill out, you just roll 3 all the time. So it's never going to escalate to 4 or 5 or 6. And so you could choose an easy win condition and also then do just 3 dice every time to make it the easiest possible mode that exists in the gameplay. So I love the scalability as well. A couple downsides: you can only play with 4 players, and you have to use 4 specialists to play. So I think it is best if you have a 4-player count, which probably isn't terrible, but that's something to consider. It wouldn't be too bad with 2 players because you could each do 2. It probably works fine with 3, but I feel like it might be a little awkward. I think you could get some quarterbacking, one person always kind of playing that 4th player or making decisions while the other 2 sort of follow along. I don't know that I would necessarily want to play this solo, although you can play all 4. So it's an option, and I'm glad they included it in the game. But player count, I think, is maybe something to make sure you're considering. And the quality of the components is pretty good. Another downside is you do have to assemble this. If you're going to keep it in the box, it won't fit in the box assembled. This grid and the tower together, they have to be taken apart every time. So there's a bit of setup. You got to put the tiles all out for the animals every time. So it takes a few minutes to get going. Not terrible, but that's something to consider as well. So hopefully that quick overview of how you play and a review of some of my reflective thoughts after a few plays is helpful for you to so you can make a decision as to whether this might be a game you want to pursue. We've really enjoyed it. I look forward to playing it again with more people. It's one I think I can introduce to just about anybody because it's cooperative and the gameplay is reasonably straightforward. And I think thematically it helps too. Just seeing how the theme connects to the gameplay, I think really does make it easy for people to understand how to play. So looking forward to a lot more plays in the future of this one. If this video helped you in any way, I'd appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up down below. And I'd love it if you'd choose to subscribe to the channel as well. If you have any questions about the game, leave some comments down below and I'll be glad to get back to you and answer those as I'm able. And as always, thanks for watching. This is Billy, Indiana, signing off.